give you that shout out that you're looking for. All right. Make sure that you check out the Spotify page that this will be uploaded on at the end of this live as well. So make sure you have your good questions ready because we're going to have a tremendous interview here. You guys saw we got the new Sergeant Be Safe cartoon up and running. It looks good. I like the background looking good. We talk about firearm safety, which is a hot topic, especially in today's world, especially with all this heat going on everywhere. Everyone's acting a little crazy. You got tremendous voiceovers in there. So if you wanted to be a voiceover, or even if you wanted to be a guest, workwithclee.com. Let me get that banner going up there. It's in the comment section, and it's going to be scrolling below. There it is. It's scrolling below as well. Workwithclee.com. If you want to be a voiceover for Sergeant Be Safe, if you're looking to be a guest on this show, or because we're sponsored by One Way Publishing, that's the website for One Way Publishing as well. One Way Publishing is a publishing company that can turn a mere thought into a book that's bought. And you can see I got a couple of my books and a couple of the clients' books behind me where we were able to make our dreams come true. And you can do the same thing too. We got many authors that have been through here on this platform. We have another author. He's another author that's coming through here today, and we're going to discuss that. But if you ever had a dream of making your dreams come true, authorship is your way. All right, we got that. You saw the clip up there with CGA and talking about the filters and all that. There's good stuff. We got some funny clips up there, things that are going on. The platforms that we are on, most of them, they're either CT or Clee Tillman or Clark Tent or Coach Clee or Black and Blue. Various platforms have different names, so make sure that you check them out and subscribe to them. And you guys know I'm Coach Clee. Clee spelled CLEE, meaning continuing law enforcement edutainment, because we entertain and we educate in the process of doing this whole thing right now. All right, you guys know I'm a full-time detective. I've been doing this for many years. Been working rotations, been working the road, various different avenues, various different I can't think of the term, but I've worked different capacities in law enforcement. And right now we're doing investigations and we're having a lot of fun doing it. And it's keeping us busy and occupied. And we're still bringing this good live and up-to-date information to the show. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we got the sponsorships out there, got the platforms out there, got a new segment real quick before we introduce the guests. We got Just the Facts. And I want you guys to know some of these clips, they're real brief, not real long, are going to be a little funny. They show you. I'll let them speak for themselves, and then we'll discuss briefly afterwards. Stand by. Not that one.
I don't even know what to say, but he did this on purpose. Oh, just mowed into the cop. And he got out talking. Okay.
So I had two clips. I must have taken off one of them, but that's okay because we're vying for time. But showing clips like that, we're just showing the state of, certain things you just can't do. Your bad behavior is not going to be accepted. Not showing that you care about yourself, life, property, or anyone else is not the way to go. I know the law enforcement here, first responders, we take a lot of hits in society, and we're all here trying to do the right thing. We're all trying to uphold a standard. Certain things people have to hold themselves accountable. Not trying to put anyone on the spot, any particular dynamic on the spot, but you got to be a decent human being, a decent citizen. We're all trying to move the needle forward and have a positive impact through life. All right. The other clip's not going to be here. We'll discuss that one at a later date. But ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, make sure you get those likes ready. Make sure that heart button even makes me a little better. Get your comments coming. We got a special guest who's backstage, and I'm going to bring him to the forefront. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, if you haven't heard of him before, you will by the end of this live or by the end of this replay. So make sure you guys check him out. His name's Oscar Smith, ladies and gentlemen. He's been a gymnast. He's been an athlete his entire life. We talked earlier today. We were talking backstage. He's a real incredible guy. I'm a true fan of him already because I know a little bit of a backstory, and I got to read a little bit of his book and things like that. It's very inspirational. I know he does 15-second motivational speeches on social media. He's a retired NYPD detective. He's done 15 years in law enforcement. He's also a rescue diver, was a rescue diver for the NYPD as well. And I'm excited to hear about that. He's currently a gym owner for O-D studiogroup.com. Get his website up here so you guys know what I'm talking about. And it's also in the comment section. Make sure you guys check that out. Not now, but at the end of the live. He's a motivator. He's an author. He's a great person. He's done tremendous things, and he's here to share his story. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, without further ado, I'm going to bring him to the stage. Oscar, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Clear.
Perfect.
What an announcement, right? That, I mean, I don't know if I can follow up with that whole thing. I'm like, who's this guy? I want to meet him.
Hey, me too. Me too. I'm glad to have you here. Thank you for making yourself available. Trust me, like I wasn't lying when I said I'm a true fan, and I'm looking forward. I'm sorry. I keep trying not to talk with my hands. I'm sitting here stiff. I'm looking forward to diving into this interview. But first, can you, for those of the people who are watching right now who have no idea who you are, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Like any other young man growing up in the, metropolitan area, and being a minority, there's ways that you can keep, like what you said, moving forward, like that needle, moving constantly forward. So I don't want to hear any excuses. I like what you said in the beginning also quickly about man up to it. If you made a mistake, own up to your mistakes. Don't blame anyone else for your own mistakes.
Yep.
In the startup world, they have a simple saying: you want to fail fast. If you want to fix it, you fix it fast and then move on. Same thing. Something doesn't work for you, or you're going down that road, wrong road, so to speak, correct yourself. Simple as that. But about me, there's not really much to tell. I would just always, you said it yourself, been an athlete since, God knows, since I was crawling around on the ground, and just basically took that athleticism background and applied it when I got into high school and into college. And that just kept me on that straight path, so to speak. We all had knucklehead friends who did stupid things and getting caught with them and being like, I didn't like this kind of lifestyle or this feeling. So it's a big thing. I'm so sorry. My big dog is coming over to hear me talk. All right, get back with it. Go on.
The dog's coming in to say hello. That's all.
Yeah, when they hear me talk and they hear you, they're like, who's this guy? So I basically, like everyone, I tell, we all have a purpose. It's you finding what that purpose is and then applying it. And it's just, once you find that purpose, life just coasts on by. It's just such an easy thing, an easy flow of that. And I also like the fact, like you said, about everyone needs to be a little bit nicer, a little bit more patient with everyone. Sometimes that could be you, that person in line who lost their wallet or doesn't understand, or that older person. Give everyone that little bit of that leeway, because one day that could be you, the slow guy in the fast lane, whatever it is. And like you said, when it gets really hot, people's tempers just flare up like crazy. So to finish up about me, yes, I was a gymnast. I used to be a D-back, and then I fell in love with gymnastics. And then I transitioned to that. I was a track and field athlete, as you and I were both discussing before about being athletes. And I fell in love with one summer. I was actually clerking at a law office, and I ran into a friend of mine, and he was a lifeguard. And, I had a suit and tie going, and I was like, what are you doing? And he's just like, oh, I work as a lifeguard. I'm like, dude, that sucks. He's in like his, basically his shorts and a jacket, whatever, like this jacket. I'm like, dude, I'm in a suit and a tie, pulling case files, all this stuff. So the next year, I wasn't much of a swimmer. I'm like, I was okay. I wasn't great.
Oh, wow.
So the next year, I wound up becoming a lifeguard on the beach. And it was interesting because it was all different people from different backgrounds. And what was great was that I ran into, actually, I started working with this one cop, Richard Wagner. And Richard was a Nassau County cop. Now, for those who don't know, Nassau, Suffolk County, that is Long Island. Nassau County and Suffolk were the highest paid cops in the nation back then.
Okay.
There was only 80 of them, pretty much. We used to call them squirrel chasers. And he said to me, because I was transitioning between my teaching and coaching, and I was kind of bored of it, and it just didn't seem like it was flourishing enough. And he said, I think you'd be a great cop. So 8 hours of him and I sitting in our lifeguard tower, him just telling me, look, if you hate it, you can quit. And that's what made me go into law enforcement. Wow. And what was great was the athletic background. I wound up becoming, going to the academy, being the company sergeant, and then, excelling in that. And then, I did finish college, and then I went on to get my master's. So, everyone, it's a stepping stone. So it's just step by step by step. I didn't get to where I am today overnight. So do the work. It's going to take you time. Don't be discouraged about it. And here I am today. Never thought I'll be an author. I had that set in my head. And I said, okay, 10 years, took all my little notes and scrap papers, things of workouts and philosophy and things like that.
Yep.
Put it all together, and I sat down with someone from a university out in Oregon, actually, who was a chairman of the English department, who helped me put my book together and proofread it for me and everything like that. And then I wound up getting published. I'm like, okay, how do I publish it? And I'm like, all right, what do I need to do? And then put my book out there. I mean, so a lot of things I tell everyone, as Bruce Lee said, water goes around, through, under, around every obstacle. And like his classic line, be like water. And I said, you can do that yourself by finding a way to overcome every obstacle. And I always tell this to people, which I had to learn. There's never a problem. There's always a solution. It's just figuring out what that solution is. So
see, I'm
that's
loving the mindset. I'm loving the mindset. You're hitting on a lot of pearls and gems that we talk about here on this platform, especially the portion where you're knocking on the door, getting out of your comfort zone, trying different things. And like you said, you didn't become who you are overnight, but you took steps in certain things, and you were able to put yourself out there and become the best version of yourself for that moment, which capitalizes, kind of like building a brick wall, and you were laying piece by piece of that brick each time you were trying something new to perfect that and to perfect yourself until you continue to, all right, I'm doing this. I decided I want to be a lifeguard. Then I'm talking with a police officer. I get into law enforcement, and he gives the best advice ever. If you don't like it, you can always stop. But you persevered through it, and you were able to develop yourself to actually sit on this podcast right now and doing me the honors of interviewing you and hearing this tremendous story. So I appreciate that.
No, you know what it is? It's the same thing. Like, I'm retired. You're still in the game. We all, I don't care what anyone else says, all retired guys, you miss it because it becomes a big part of your life. And you have a story of someone that you really helped who needed help, or a story where someone really touched you, the humanity side. And people don't see that. And I think it's great for your show, showing the human side besides the uniform. Like, we're not robots in that uniform. We're human beings. We're brothers, we're fathers, we're sisters, everything else. We're real people. So we understand that. And then, the horror that we see of like how bad people can be to each other. Yeah. And just, the classic line was from Heat, when Al Pacino, whoever he ghosted basically, or followed, that homicide detective or lieutenant, that he was, mirroring that concept. When he said, yeah, let's share that about the crack mother who threw the baby in the microwave because it was crying too much. Let's share that, whatnot. Yeah. Like, there's certain things you don't bring home. Yeah. Right? You don't want to talk about, especially when it comes to, we deal with life and death a lot. Yeah. And at any time that can happen or not happen. Or deal with someone who's like, I got a flat tire. Let me help you change your flat tire because you don't know how. It's like, okay. Or someone being lost. I mean, so any day at any time, that's a difference. And people have to understand that, especially in law enforcement today. People call us because they want help. And we're there to help you. And that was a big thing, like with bad guys or knuckleheads. I used to tell them straight up, you act like a knucklehead, you're going to get treated like a knucklehead. Yep. That's simple. Act like a gentleman. You got caught. You made a mistake. I don't want to see you again. That's your choice. Catch you again. That's on you. Simple as that. Don't make excuses about anything. It has nothing to do with your race or anything else. You have a choice. And
accountability.
Exactly.
Yep. Accountability is everything. I believe I'm a true proponent of that. Yes. You can't become who you are without accepting. You can't become who you want to become without accepting who you already are and building from it. And you alluded to that already as well.
And there's some guys. I remember one time when I did narcotics in Manhattan, in Chelsea, and back then when drugs were illegal, and there was a guy I caught, dealing weed or buying weed, whatever it is, and I actually felt bad for him because he told me a really good story, whether it was true or not. I let him go. And I said, okay, go throw the weed in the sewer or whatever it is, stuff like that. I don't want to see you, because he was like, I'm going to get in trouble. I'm going to lose my job and this and that. I was like, I was getting this for a friend, whatever. And I said, all right, I never want to see you again. And I never saw him again. So I like to think of the better side of that my interference with that and giving him that one out, that this isn't for me. I got caught. I'm going to go turn my life around. I'm hoping that's exactly what happened. It wasn't a scam, but I never saw him again in the neighborhood. So I like to think of that as a positive insight, like, hey, this officer gave me a chance to change my life, so I don't go down that road. And I think a lot of cops, male or female, we all have instances like that. Like, okay, you made a mistake. I get that. Peer pressure, stupidity, whatever it is, poverty, whatever. You made a mistake. Don't do it again. I'm going to let you go. You get a mulligan, as they say in golf. Okay, you can reset it. But if you go and do it again, I'm not going to be happy if I see you again and catch you.
It's game on.
For understanding. And that's the whole thing where, people have to understand just what you said, accountability. You make a decision yourself, a rational decision. This can happen or that can happen. You control that. And that's part of that, 15-second motivation, positivity. Think positive. Perseverance. If you want to go and be a lawyer, go through the steps to go to law school, and then the other one is professional. Be a professional, no matter what you do. There was a gas station attendant in Far Rockaway, Queens. And the guy in there, he was a very disheveled individual. He definitely had a very hard life, older man, like 60 years old. He treated everyone every day with the utmost professional. He was the best, like, gas station attendant he could be. And I commended him every day. I was like, come in, fill up your tire with air, pump gas in your car, clean your windows. If you gave him a nickel, you gave him $1, or you gave him nothing, he still treated everybody the same. And I said, that's the way you have to be. And a job. He was proud that he had a job. He was so proud. He's like, I had, ups and downs in my life. I blame myself for where I am today, but I can make it better tomorrow. And I said, it almost makes you want to cry, because he turned around. Who knew his background? He grew up obviously in the 60s, during, people don't understand the times of real civil rights problems going on. And here he was, and I was like 20 years old, and, seeing him going back and forth and still having that job to the day he died. And the community coming out and celebrating, his life and just how nice he was and great. So
got a life lesson early.
Talk about all the positivity that everyone can bring to their lives. So if I can do it, I tell everyone else you can. So when I became a cop, to quickly go into that, I always wanted to be a detective. I never wanted to be a sergeant or anything else like that. I wanted to be a detective. So the quickest route for that was me going from patrol into like a narcotics unit or street crime unit. Then Sergeant Philomena, which was so funny, my sergeant at the time, and he said, Oscar, I know you're a big surfer kind of guy, because that was my lifeguarding job. I loved the water. Fell in love with the ocean. So basically, go back to that first story. The guys who I was lifeguarding with made me into a swimmer. I wasn't a swimmer. I was a track athlete, football player, gymnast, all that other stuff. And swimming, like in the middle of the open ocean, like, whoa. So they made me into a swimmer. And I remember they took me out swimming in hurricane surf.
Wow.
Massive waves, wind, everything else like that. So until I was comfortable. So he knew that, Sergeant Philomena. He was like, I love the ocean. He said, Oscar, did you ever hear of the scuba team? I'm like, no, not really. And he said, well, they're search and rescue. You have a big aquatic background. So maybe this will be a good spot for you. And then he said, it's the elite of the NYPD. He said, there's only 30 guys in the unit. Only 30. That's it. Out of 38,000.
That's what turned your switch on.
Exactly. I was like, all right. And I was like, what's the test like? They said it's equivalent to like that of the Navy SEALs. I'm like, really? I'm like, okay. So I got a little bit of a taste of it, what I needed to do. And I just trained and then came out and did it. And the best thing about the job back then, it was you work 3 days a week, 3 days nights, 3 days, 3 days days. And then it was 12-hour tours. And we were the only unit allowed in the NYPD to sleep, because we needed to be fresh for anything that happened.
Right.
So from bombs to when the plane landed in the water to explosions, car submersions, everything else like that. Suicides. I used to always get mad because I'm like, why does everybody want to try and kill themselves by jumping off the bridge at 3 a.m? Like, can't you guys do it like doing normal hours? But
it's never convenient.
Yeah, never at all. And that's what got me into the scuba gear. And, I loved it. It was just, the training of heavy weapons and then dignitary protection and then bomb disposal. And it was great because we were working with the DOD guys, Secret Service. Anytime the president would fly into Wall Street Heliport, we're the ones doing the bomb sweeps. Because they're like, you guys know the water. You know what best, not us. We're not jumping in there. Oh, that's your backyard. So, and that's what made me go into the scuba unit. And I got promoted to detective since we have a special skill. And that was the best thing. And I remember Chief Kamadana at the time. He was an old school Marine, high and tight. This guy was like, you know, in his 60s. He looked like he could beat the crap out of anybody, you know, full on. And he just admired the fact of my work ethic, because I was to go run on the flight deck, flip a tire. Like I would go and get these 400-pound truck tires I would find, put them on the flight deck, flip them around, and then go swim in Jamaica Bay. And I remember everyone going, well, who's out there in the water? I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, that's Oscar Smith. He's like, what are you sorry about? He's like, he's doing what he's supposed to be doing, swimming. Yeah. He's a rescue doctor. And they were like, oh, okay, Chief, sorry. You know, and it was funny because he used to call me Jacques Cousteau because I was always in the water. And I remember the CEO back time of aviation was like, I like Oscar. You know why? Because he's not ever afraid to get wet.
That's interesting too, because I just going for your background, I would think that you were born and raised and to be in the water from an early age, and you said you didn't actually start learning how to swim until mainly around the age you became a lifeguard around that time. Is that correct?
Correct.
Wow. And so you picked it up and you harnessed it to become to you self-internalize it on your own.
Well, it was one of those things like when I was in my junior college, and on my days off, I would go and, you know, from lifting weights or track or gymnastics, I would go and try and swim. And I realized I couldn't swim one lap. And I remember the female lifeguard sitting there at the pool making fun of me that you can't even swim one lap. You know, here I am, this built guy, whatever it is, and I'm trying to impress her. And I'm like drowning every day. So I just had every Tuesday, I would go at 3 o'clock when the pool was empty at the college and swim 1 lap, 2 laps, 3 laps, 4 laps. And my goal was to get to 8. And I was like, okay, no problem. So I was okay. I wasn't that great. Then I remember I took a swim class in college, and they, for the easy credit, because since I was a phys ed major and minored in business, and they videotaped me back then, the old school videotape.
Yeah.
And he said, your stroke is completely off. So they broke my stroke down. They're like, you just try and outmuscle the water, which you do. But the problem is the water is going to beat you over time. So it's like, you're just not efficient. So I'm like, okay, you got to learn how to be efficient and learn how to glide. And then I took that idea, and when I went to basically lifeguard, you know, school, so to speak, or rookie training as it were, and they swam us to death. I mean, every day. It was so funny. 16 of us would go in the water. I'll be like number 18 coming out, you know. I was just like, and they were like, who's this? And they used to call me a brick or a sea anchor, like the human sea anchor. Here comes Oscar. But I was the fastest guy on the beach. They had a competition of sprints, and that was the whole thing of my background, that I would run hills and soft sand runs and got faster and faster and faster. And then I went up being on the lifeguard competition team my rookie year, doing this event called Beach Flags. And I have to say, Baywatch definitely helped my social status too, because every girl wanted to be a lifeguard, and it was great being tamed and built. So that part of being athletic was great, because I loved, playing with athletes. So they taught me beach, volleyball, sand soccer, things like that, doing different things at the beach. And so instead of just sitting there hanging out, boogie boarding, body surfing, surfing, stand-up paddle. It was like everything. I'm like, wow, this is great. Like, the beach was like going to a park, like a kid going to a playground.
Yeah. That's great. So while you were doing that, you did soft sand, running hills, and you would always try and make yourself better. So you did the hard stuff. You pushed yourself to do the hard stuff until it became easier for you.
Correct. You know what it is that I wanted to break that stigma being a minority. And I was the first minority, like so-called black lifeguard on the beach. And I was the first ever black rescue swimmer in the history of the NYPD. That's what's up. And that was a whole thing where a lot of people, I like breaking that mold and being first. And that was a whole thing. I wanted always to be first. And not prove myself, but just for me personally.
Yep.
Anything else, because I love when someone says, okay, you can't do that. And I'm like, okay, I'll find a way. I'll make it work. That's it.
You're like, watch this.
Correct. But that's all thing. It's putting the work in. It's like you saying, I'm going to do a podcast. And I said before to you earlier in backstage that I commend you because you're still full-time as a cop. And here you are. And it's not easy. Everyone thinks it's so simple putting together a podcast. It's not. And, you know, all that time and effort put into it with producing, setting it all up, the equipment, getting guests, everything else, editing, you know, it's very time consuming. And
Very
I'm sure
much
you
so.
have family, you have friends, loved ones, stuff like that. You rather spend time with, but you have to do this and then promote and then market. And it's like, it's a full-time job.
It is
And
a full-time job.
And that's the thing a lot of people don't understand is that you have to inspire yourself to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something where you go, well, I'm going to start this. I'm not going to fail at it. I'm going to keep going.
Yeah.
So I'm going to make it work. If I have 1 viewer or 5 million viewers, okay, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. That's it.
Keep the needle moving along. Exactly. Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, stand by. We're going to jump to a quick commercial and we're going to come right back. We got to wait a lot more of this interview coming at you. So we'll be right back. Stand by. Ladies and gentlemen, Sergeant Be Safe here. We're going to do a roll call. Let me introduce you to the rest of the lineup. And here we go.
Hey crew, Captain Chaos here. I'm also a canine handler. Here's my dog Kraken.
Hello everyone, I'm Major Payne, in charge of this crazy crew. Nothing gets by me.
Good day, y'all. I'm SWAT Specialist Clay Moore, always ready to swoop in and save the day.
Hello folks, it's the Eagle of Justice swooping in, providing advice to set things right.
Hello, Sergeant Be Safe, Captain Chaos. I'm your new district attorney, just in case.
He is our district attorney trying to clean up the streets.
Yes, locking up bad guys.
All rise. I am the Honorable Judge Mint.
I'm a district attorney scot-free, and my guys didn't do it.
Ooh, I think I'm gonna like this city. Rob you blind here, and I'm here to cause total chaos.
Yeah, I'm Treacherous Tony. I deal illegal drugs and pills. My new friends Robbie Blind and Chance Wilder brought me into their crew.
Chance Wilder at your service.
I guess I'll just cross the street here.
You guys remember what almost happened to Megan. She doesn't always pay attention.
Oh, geez. I didn't even see that car coming.
Hello. Welcome back to my classroom. In case you forgot, I am Mrs. Gainer.
Hello. My name is Maya. I could tell this is going to be my new favorite class.
Hello. I'm Nasty Nina, and I'm going to divorce this guy and take him for everything he's got.
And I am her attorney, Wacky Techie, and I have nothing else better to do.
I'm Hal Monitor, the neighborhood watchman. I'll tell Sergeant Be Safe about any suspicious activity.
Oh my goodness, three clumps saved me. Donde está? Tengo hace frío. That's why I'm a sergeant and you're not. I'm afraid. I'm worried. I'm trying to wait on these customers. I'm over here at Mario's bar. I'm afraid that something's gonna happen. You said you were gonna be here. You're not here, and I need you here now. I am the esteemed and pristine Reverend Wade Waters. You make sure you make it here on the right day at the right time, because I got the right seat for you, all right? And that wraps up Roll Call for you. See more educational skits on the podcast Black and Blue. And that's your tip of the day to get you on your way. And we are back, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. That was a word from Sergeant Be Safe. I hope you guys enjoyed a little roll call, introducing who his world is and who the universe is. Good guys, bad guys, and common citizens in there, giving safety tips weekly here on the podcast, Black and Blue, and on the YouTube page. So make sure you guys check that out. But we're jumping right back into this interview here, and I'm sitting here stiff, not trying to use my hands. I want to go like this so bad. We got Oscar Smith right here, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and we've been having a dynamic conversation. He's been giving us a lot of good information, a lot of good things that he's done, and is still willing to do to move the needle forward and promote himself, promote positivity, to show that, you know, you can always be better. He's always finding a way to push himself and overcoming the odds. I know we talked earlier today, and one of the stories that we talked about I found tremendously exciting that I wanted to make sure we talked about on here too as well, Oscar. You talked about how when you were on patrol, you were in a certain area and you would start seeing certain individuals out and about in decent neighborhoods, just having decent yards, looking like they're enjoying life, and you would just ask common questions on like, hey, what do you do? How'd you get here? How'd you elevate yourself, or what kind of things are you doing that I'm not? And you would listen to them, and you would take their advice and apply it to your life in positive ways until you actually found, you said you found what your niche was. You found what you were good at. Please correct me if I'm wrong, and please feel free to share the story, because I know it's your story and you can tell it better than I can.
That's okay. You pretty much summed it up. So I went from being a housing cop into Chelsea. And Chelsea at the time in Manhattan was going through a whole revamp. At the time, to give people an idea, New York City was going to build a stadium in Manhattan to rival an outdoor stadium, rival MSG. And that was in Chelsea by the Javits Center and the old Long Island Railroad train yard that was there.
Okay.
So I went from basically lower income people and seniors in Rockaway, Queens, to all different types of very high-end individuals. So I would get, like what we call 1011s, that's alarms, or like small little 53s, which is our code for accidents or things like that, or 1010, like, robbery or something in progress. Usually 9 times out of 10, it was just something minor, like he bumped me, or he hit my dog, or he looked at me the wrong way, kind of a thing. So and it was funny because coming from that housing to this, I'm like, really? Are you kidding me? I never forget my first call was his dog bit my dog at the dog park, and I want his phone number. I'm like, you're kidding me, right? Like, really? You guys can't work that out yourselves? You actually have to call the cops? It's like, welcome to Manhattan. So I started to inquire about like people, what they did by going into their beautiful townhouses in Manhattan, or beautiful apartments with doormen and penthouses. And it was just a simple question, because looking at what they had and where they went to school. So they just started to engage in conversation. And I was really shocked how a lot of them opened up to me right away. And my partner at the time said, Oscar, it's because of your size. You're not exactly a little guy, and you look like you don't want to take no for an answer. So I intimidated him a little bit. But so I took that background, because all cops, we usually do side jobs, and it's usually in security. And some sort of security. And I always tell everyone, think outside of that, because a lot of the security guards in Manhattan, doormen to movie theaters, to also hotels, are off-duty or retired cops.
Yep.
And I totally understand why, because we can carry a gun and we know the local precincts and things like that. It's easy to communicate. So I said, I want to do something outside of security, because I used to get last for security all the time. And I said, I want to go back into what I used to do, and that was training. So before I was a police officer, when I was going through college, I would work at a gym because the membership was free, and I would go and do the closing shift. So basically I was a gym floor attendant. I'm the guy who wiped the stuff down, put the weights away, and gave you a spot if you needed it. And no one bothered me. Then I would do my homework. See, I'm using my hands also. It's all cops. We always do that for our hands. That.
I guess, that's a trait of ours. I'm sitting here folding.
But it's also remember they taught us that in the academy, because your hands are always up for that defensive stance. And it's just good tactics. That's the whole thing, where your hands are up, so right away you can deflect and whatnot.
Exactly. I remember that.
Sometimes we just got to sit on our hands and be like, oh, okay, But so I took that a step further, and I wound up working in a gym in Tribeca part time. And 9/11 happened. There was lots of overtime, and I had a couple of clients. And the guy who I worked for, he was very half-assed about his gym. Didn't clean it himself. He didn't put paper towels up or little things. And I said to him, you want to do this, this, and this. You got a nice little bit of clientele coming in. And he said the worst thing you could say to me, well, if you know so much, open up your own gym. 6 months later, I did. And that's how it all started, and I was like, okay.
Wow.
So because of the people talking to them in Chelsea, realizing, because it's that saying, you're never going to get rich by working for someone else. You can have a very comfortable lifestyle. And you and I both discussed off in the backstage, your overtime is only for so long.
Yeah.
And I remember we used to get, people don't realize Disney bought Times Square back in the day. And that was funny because they gave us overtime every weekend, 10 hours, to sit in Times Square to get rid of all the street peddlers, graffiti artists, riffraff and whatnot. And that went on for about 6 months, and then it stopped. And we were so happy making that extra money. I'm like, oh, and then all of a sudden it's gone. You're like, all right, now what do I do?
Yeah.
So, and that was all the federal funded programs, everything else like that. But that was the thing where I spoke to people and I listened to them, besides go become a lawyer, as in I was holding law enforcement. We have the opportunity to lots of programs out there from your local colleges that give you extra credit and also fund you to go on. Let's say you want to be a teacher, you finished law enforcement, you want to go into that aspect, or I want to go into a lawyer, or I want to open up my own business, whether it's carpentry or television production, something along those lines. There's never anything that you cannot do if you just don't set yourself, back by saying, well, that's too much time, or it might not happen, or I'm not too sure. Do the research, get the education, talk to people. And that's the whole thing, what started with that. I just started talking to people, and I knew the gym business. So I said, okay, what do I need to do to make this work?
Gotcha.
And that was it.
Yeah, I like how you explain and not limiting yourself and not buying into the excuses as well. We all have the same 24 hours in a day. And some days are easy, some days are not as easy. Some days are character building days. You guys know on the platform what that means. It can be challenges, but you still got to make things happen. Whether you're still working a traditional 9-to-5 or you're working for yourself, and your hours, you actually work. When you work for yourself, most times you're actually working more hours than you would for a traditional 9-to-5 company or anything like that anyway. So therefore, you're still putting in a lot of work.
That's true. And I'm going to touch upon that. People, you have to understand, when you own a business, it's never closing. It's 24/7. It costs me a relationship. It's going to cost you time with your kids. Be prepared for that. Yeah. And that's the whole thing where you have to balance your time, which is very important. And when that comes to it, like if you want to fold up the business and leave, that's up to you. But if you pursue it and wait it out, the average time is 5 years for your business to grow. So you have to give it 110% 5 years, not 95, not 70% or so. If you go so, your business is going to fail. It's just that simple. And it's the same thing like that in law enforcement, where you tell everyone, you want to go to an elite SWAT unit. Okay, you need to do this, this, and this. There's a process. There's steps. Do the work. Simple as that. And, like you becoming detective. You don't all of a sudden go like, oh, yeah, let's make Clea a detective. Boom. You're like, I worked to get here. I had to learn detective work. What does it, detail? What do I need to do? And then work on that. And then as well, reading people, understanding. And I tell that to a lot of people as former police officers or present police officers, we learn how to read people. It's almost a psychological trait that you learn. You know when people are lying to you, when they're pretty much antsy or, like doing all such fidgety movements. Like you learn a little bit more and more about people and their normal habits also. And all bad guys, they all sweat, jitter, what I call spontaneous utterance, just start talking all this nonsense. You're like, yep, you're the guy I want.
Oh man, I left the groceries at the store. What?
I know. Like, okay. And that's the whole thing where we as police officers have to understand there's life beyond the badge. Eventually you are going to retire And you're not ready to, like, I'm not done to sit at home and fish all day or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I want to go out and do something else. And like you said, you like to coach, you like to inspire people, motivation. Love to see you on a stage one day during a TEDx talk, somewhere along those lines where you're elevated completely, or doing a broadcast on a regular show on a network. It's like, okay, you know what? I want to bring this out to light. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I tell everyone, you are the only one that holds you back.
Yep.
Simple as that. And that's like my motivational thing. And I loved it when I stopped it and someone said to me, wrote me literally an email and said, because of you, I get up every morning. Other than that, I'm depressed. And I was like, you know what? I'll go back because of that one person. That one person, I'm like, I'm going to do this every morning. That's all.
Wow. You were a game changer for somebody. That does make a huge difference. Look at
But
that.
that's the same like with you. I'm sure in your comments and emails are like, hey, thank you so much, especially for the younger generation. That, not all cops are bad. Not everything you see on TV or in the media, stuff like that. There are cops out there who genuinely want to help you. Yeah. And we have in New York is PAL, the Police Athletic League.
Yeah, we have that here as well. Yep.
Where you go and you tell kids, like, this is the right route to go. You don't hang up knuckleheads. Yeah, it's fun to do this whole thing and whatever it is, or you want to move girls and cars and all that nonsense. And what was great about us growing up, we didn't have that social media nonsense where they make you feel like you're living a substandard life if you're not doing this or having that or whatever it is. Like, you want to be happy. And that's a key thing in life with everyone. You want to be happy. Trust me, I know billionaires who are so unhappy and they wish they had my simple life. And I'm like, it's just simple. Same with celebrities and athletes. Like, you surround yourself with a bunch of chickens, you're never going to soar like an eagle. So,
I like that. I like that. Yeah. And while looking at your book, I was going to ask, since you took on the challenge of getting your own gym, and then you've trained, I've seen a lot of high important names, high clientele in there. And just from, living a little bit of life, it's good. And I'm not trying to take anything away from it. You touched on it yourself. Sometimes the ones we think are at the top are really not always at the top as what we may perceive them to be. And the ones that are at the bottom are really not always at the bottom or the perceived bottom or what we may think it to be as well. Not trying to take anything from anyone else, but let's just go back to the original question. Where has your gym been able to take you personally into your mental well-being and your philosophy on life?
I have to say it's mostly my clients when I touch upon them, where I have clients who've been with me for over 10 years. I can't get rid of them. They're like a bad penny, as the saying goes, but they tell me straight out, Oscar, you don't know what's out there, other trainers and stuff like that, or other gyms I've gone to. I can't do that. You spoiled me.
Gotcha.
The best is one client. I had a girlfriend I was dating, and we were sitting down on the floor of my gym, and it was like 8 o'clock at night because I would clean the gym myself, mopping up and sitting on the floor, her and I laughing. And he came in, and he was a very high-powered individual. And unfortunately, I'm not going to say his name because I always keep the business guys, my clientele.
Understandable.
He used to fly me to LA on his private jet. Back at the Malibu colony when I'm sitting with Dustin Hoffman, I'm hanging out with Hollywood producers, John McEnroe, stuff like that, dinner. I'm like, okay, Lenny Kravitz. I'm like, all right. And he said, I like the fact that you're so down to earth. You're mopping your own floors at your gym. You sit down on the floor. You're laughing with your girlfriend. He's like, I want that kind of life.
Wow.
He's like, I've been divorced 3 times, like I have kids, stuff like that. He's just like, where did you lose that direction? I have all the money in the world, but it can't buy happiness or health. And my philosophy, I distill that into all my clients is just that. Be happy, be healthy. They both go together like peanut butter and jelly. My favorite saying. Simple as
Mine
that.
too.
Get me the PB&J. Do you know it's funny? If you go to any deli, anywhere in the United States, they will not make you a peanut butter and jelly. You can get anything else but a peanut butter and jelly.
I never actually thought about that before. That's interesting.
Because they won't open a jar of peanut butter or make a jelly to make one sandwich.
Because the rest will probably go to waste, huh?
Exactly. When the guy told me that, he was like, I'm not going to open that up unless you buy the peanut butter and jelly. I'll make you the sandwich. I'm like, no.
Wow.
So that was my philosophy by distilling to everyone a little bit of my background and how athletics helped me basically become the man I am today. And I try and push that out to everybody, that you always have ups and downs, but your health and your mental well-being is always there. It's important. And that's another thing I want to talk about, all our fellow law enforcement. If you feel depressed or feel like you have anxiety, don't be afraid to talk to somebody, from your partner to your supervisor, stuff like that, to friends, whatever it is. Get a different perspective of things. Go out and get a little bit of like, hey, I just need someone to kind of bounce this off of a little bit, or just kind of find a healthy outlet, whether it's swimming, working out, whatever it is. If it's playing chess, watching movies, writing, anything. Gardening is one of my favorite things to do in my off days. So do something as a healthy outlet for you to get rid of that. And also, see, there are good people out there, as well as we know lots of bad people, but we always run into the bad people, never too many of the good people. So back to the gym thing, my philosophy is very simple for everyone. Could you be a little bit healthier every day? Yeah. What do you need to do to take that steps? Good nutrition and a consistency of a workout routine. That's all.
Perfect. And bringing that back to law enforcement as well. We hear it all the time. You need to eat better. You need to sleep better. You need to work out more often. And when we come out of the academy, we're this fine-tuned machine. We're ready to take on the world. Then, of course, not making excuses, but it's true. The shift work gets ahead of us. We're working, whether it's rotating schedules, 8-hour days, 10-hour days, 12-hour days, 2 weeks days, 2 weeks nights, or a month of days, a month of nights. However it rotates to the point where it's hard to keep up some sort of schedule. It's hard to keep up some kind of a diet plan. It's hard to keep up. You have even if you have your meal preps, sometimes you get a hot call to where you're guarding a perimeter and you don't get relieved for 2 or 3 hours, and that's during your meal break. And you're not going to eat until that incident's over, and then next thing you know, it's 4 o'clock in the morning and you're starving, hungry, and you're eating the meal that you should have ate probably earlier in the shift. And it is what it is. It's one of those things. We all get it. We all understand it. But what would you say to those of us that are still working and it's difficult to maintain some sort of physical fitness or diet or just the mental toughness? A lot of the older guys are getting to the point where the mental health is a big deal, where we're getting bogged down with so many incidents that where some guys don't sleep at night. Some guys, that's all they hear is certain incidents ringing in their head. What would you say to anything like that?
Well, we're going to touch upon the first thing about your meal prep. You said it very much, which is great. I tell everyone, when you do have shift work, get yourself a little cooler, make your meals for the next 3 days. And when you do have that emergency call, trust me, I remember trying to eat a chicken parm hero before I had to jump in a helicopter to go jump out of it. And I'm like, I can't eat this until later. And, sometimes when it gets too late, you don't need to eat. You're like, okay, I'm just going to have some water. I'm going to have a piece of fruit, and then I'm going to go to bed and I'm going to eat this tomorrow. And I explain that to everyone. You have to realize, it's 3 a.m. You're not going to have a steak and potatoes dinner that you were supposed to have at 8 o'clock.
Right.
You got to start thinking of that of yourself. Like, that's not going to help you. Let me skip that. And then healthy choices, like I said, with the meal prep, let me get carrot sticks. Let me get some, cold cuts, a hero, something like that. Something easy, peanut butter and jelly. And the other thing is that we all know that we had these guys that we work with where they got so big, their vests looked like lobster bibs, And you didn't want also the guy who had the uniform with stains all over from his, jelly donut he had to the pizza to this and that. And you're like, take pride in yourself. And that was a whole thing where we had a saying, does your uniform command respect? And that's the whole thing. Your uniform is always tight. When you're high and tight, a lot of criminals look at you and go like, I ain't going to mess with that guy because that guy, he's straight as an arrow.
Yeah.
And that's why the Marine uniform will never change, because that is one that commands respect. All military uniforms have that look to them, which is important. And then you want to look the part. There was nothing better when I was lifeguarding and I was ripped up, a good 185, pure muscle. And people will come to me and go, I like your beach. You know why I sit here? Because you're definitely the person who's going to come and save me if anything happens. And I'm like, thank you so much. And I remember getting that also as a cops, where people would see me on the train. When I lived in Tribeca, I would take the train back from Chelsea to Tribeca. And people were like, oh, good to see you. And I would go home in uniform, especially during 9/11, because we would do doubles. You know, sleep a few hours and go right back to work. And it was a great feeling when people said that to me. They were impressed. They're like, hey, you know, you want to be that stature. So think about when you first saw Superman. We're talking about Christopher Reeves back in the day. You know it.
You know it.
Oh yeah.
I'm with you. Go ahead. You're rocking.
So then, you know, when he first came out on that thing, you were like, I want to be Superman. I want that. Wow, that's Superman. And that's how people see us as. When you roll up on a scene, and we discussed this before backstage, people genuinely call us, they need help. And that's the thing I explained. When people are drowning in the water, they have this stare of like, you know, their life flash, their eyes become glassy, they're waving, failing their arms, and they're like, you know, screaming for the mommy or else like that. And they're like, when they see you, it's like God came down and grabbed them.
Wow.
And it was a funny joke. I trained this rabbi real quick. And his rabbi told me this joke, which was funny. And he said, you know, there's a Jewish guy drowning in the middle of the ocean. He's like, oh, you know, a boat comes by. Hey, get on the boat. I'm going to take you. He's like, no, God will save me. Boat drives off. Lifeguard comes out and paddles. Say, hey, come on, get on the paddle. I'm going to take you in. He's like, no, God will save me. And he's like, no, okay. And the lifeguard leaves. Next thing you know it, scuba diver comes by. He's like, oh, dude, you're in trouble. Let me help you. I'll give you my tank. When I would go back. No, God will save me. He drowns. He goes to God. God, I thought you were going to save me. And God goes, what are you talking about? I sent you a boat. I sent you a lifeguard. I sent you a scuba diver. What's wrong with you? But that's the whole thing. Right?
You didn't take it.
But that's the whole thing. Is like, we have to learn to save ourselves. And then people need that extra help. And people look at us that way. It's great when kids look at us that way. When I would get out of the helicopter or get into the helicopter, when we would land in Central Park or Jamaica Bay or ponds or things like that, kids were like, wow, because we look like Superman. They were like, that can't be real. It's something you watch. My wife used to call me James Bond for the things that I did. But back to healthy wise, you know, eating healthy, you have to implement that. Same with a good diet with consistency of working out. Even if it's a half an hour, even if you just do cardio, ride the bike, walk, anything, just to keep that weight down and keep your circulatory system. Plus, it also helps you sleep better. Mental fitness, that's a whole different angle aspect. When you feel bogged down or overwhelmed, find your friend, your partner, or someone to talk to help you along that way. Or seek a medical professional, a psychiatrist, psychology, anything you can, whatever you do to get that stress out of your head. Remember, that's a first sign of depression when you can't sleep and you can't turn things off in your head. You start to become, like you say, bogged down. And I hate to see guys who commit suicide because they feel no one, or end up in the bottom of a bottle. We all know those guys who do what we used to call 4 to 4 tours, 4 p.m. to 4 a.m. because they would close the bar. They would get off at midnight, go spend the next 4 hours at the bar. You know, it's like, oh.
Yeah. I mean, no matter what, nationwide, worldwide, I mean, we all know those guys in one capacity or another. And it kind of, I remember it hurts to see the older guys. Now that I'm one of the older guys, but when I was younger, to see the older guys is to actually see them on a call and you see them shine. And I'm like, wow, this guy, you know, he's coming in here. He did this, he did that. He said, and watch that guy over there before, as you're still a rookie officer, you're looking like, how does he know this guy's going to run? And you start picking up cues and then to watch them develop to where they start getting burned out and they start gaining weight and they start not caring. You look at them and like, wow, you're this great officer. And you watch them kind of whittle away until they're almost not the same individual they were before. And you're like, how did that happen? How can I stop that from happening to me? Because they all say that this job's a meat grinder and it'll chew you up and spit you out if you're not mentally prepared for it.
Correct. And we had a saying, we used to call those guys hair bags. You know, they're so miserable about everything, they even hate their dog. You know, and they don't look, like I said, you said it before, own up to your mistakes. If you got divorced or whatever it is, you did it. Don't think of what that person did wrong. Think about what you did to push that person away. Same with your friends. And that's a sure sign of some sort of mental illness when people start secluding themselves and living like a hobbit.
Yeah.
You know, and not really talking anymore and else like that. And I'm like, hey, you know, let me take care. Or you find them all the time. basically drowning their sorrows in beer or alcohol or God knows what, and it's all these little signs that you have to look for. And that's when everyone needs that little step up. It's like when a coach would say, hey, Clee, I know you're better than that. Let's go. You can do a better lap than that, or you can lift that more, or whatever it is. It's like, okay, because I believe in you and you need that little extra help.
Yep. Yeah. And reading through your book, Natural Strength, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you guys, when it's available, make sure you guys get yourselves a copy. It's a good book. It's a quick read as well. So it's not something that you're going to be tied down with for a couple of weeks, but it is very applicable, especially to the law enforcement community, because when I was reading it, and we all know it as well, the better your diet is, the more you work out. And I know you give tips and things like that, and experiences, and also I can't think of testimonies are in there as well. To where, you once you Deion Sanders said it best. If you look good, you feel good. If you feel good, you play good. If you play good, they pay good. And so that you start sleeping better, like you said, your mental health increases, and you start feeling better about yourself. You start feeling like you're very confident with yourself. Not only that, I said your medications is what I want to talk. You start weaning off medications if you're on them, or to the point where you don't need medication. You start going to doctor visits, the doctor saying, you know what, clean bill of health, and send you on your way. The book highlights many things like that they taught us in the academy, and sometimes we forget about it, and that we need that reminder.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely correct. I explain to everyone, there's nothing better than two chemicals that the human race can never basically replicate. One is endorphins, and the other one is adrenaline. So all the medications you take, remember, your body automatically uses that and stops producing the stuff that you naturally produce because of the medications. And again, you don't want to be popping pills when you're 50 years old, and then 60, 70, because they just give you more pills, because pills all create side effects. And we all know that. So I want everyone to be mentally and physically healthy. Take care of yourself. Do what makes you happy. If you're depressed, be happy. Go see movies. Go engage friends. Be social. Get off the phones. Get off social media. Get off all that nonsense. It's garbage. It's garbage out there. It's just basically scrolling, swiping, all this stuff. Everyone has AD&D because of these stupid things now. And we don't think for ourselves. You got to think for yourself. Read a book. Physically pick up a book and read it. And I wrote a book. I made it for the reader, not about how great I am or who I train or that. I want you to be inspired. And I talked about being an inner child. When you went out to play, you didn't have like, oh, I'm just going to do this for an hour and come back home. You went out and played all day till your mom or your dad had to come get you, or your brother.
You never wanted to come indoors. Yeah.
Correct. You were always outside. So that was a key thing. We need to go back to that and distill that as parents into our children as well. Read, get plenty of education, exercise, nutrition. That's why NFL started their Play 60 whole campaign. Everyone wants to be an athlete inside, or something else, or something better. There's a great line in the movie Indecent Proposal, and everyone doesn't understand this one line. Even a brick wants to be something. And he was showing photos of, let's say, St. Patrick's Cathedral, Empire State Building. A brick wants to be something. Everyone wants to be something. Don't be afraid to be that. Strive for it. If you fail, keep going till you succeed. It's just that simple. There's so much positivity out there. You have it within you. Just tap into it. And please, again, don't be afraid to talk to someone if you feel depressed or you feel lonely or things like that. Talk to a friend. Hang out with someone. Go see a ball game. Do something together. I like it when precincts get together. We used to do golf outings and softball games, things like that, to make it a family. And I'm sure you have that there in your district as well. People get together because we do go through a lot as cops, and when it's a huge emotional weight on our shoulders of things, because we do see a lot and deal with a lot of things. Like I said, the bad part of society.
Yep. Yeah. Good job. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Absolutely. Getting together is a fun time. I know we call it platoon night over in my area. We get where the platoons that are working in rotation, we get together when we have at least the weekend or at least 3 days in a row off. Get together, go have a meal, get together, and that have the softball tournaments. We had kickball tournaments, just fun stuff. Raise money for canines, raise money for whatever organizations that we'd make a donation for. It's a lot of fun to do. It's more fun than, it's good to do it for a good cause, don't get me wrong, but it's fun to go out there and bust each other's chops too. So
correct, exactly.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, one more commercial. We're going to jump right back to the finalization of this interview. So get your questions ready. I see that there's trouble with the connection on the questions in the comments. I haven't seen any come through, and that's understandable, but that's fine. Make sure you get them on the replay, and we'll get back to them. But here comes Sergeant Be Safe, so stand by.
The town square is busting with activity as residents gather for National Night Out. Sergeant Be Safe, a brave and dedicated police officer, is busy organizing the event.
Welcome, everyone. Let's celebrate this community event together.
Here's Major Payne showing off the department's new drone.
I'm going to showcase the latest crime-fighting gadgets to you all. Behold, the power of technology in keeping our town safe.
Now we see the nosy hell monitor coming to tell Captain Chaos something.
Captain Chaos, I have something to tell you. Oh, no!
Kraken, no! Come back here!
I hope Captain Chaos catches him in time.
At this first function, I'm your fitness instructor. I teach Kung Fu, the flying cross jiu-jitsu, and things that'll keep you safe.
Safety comes first. Always be prepared. I'm excited to be one of the first students.
Just as things start to settle down, treacherous Tony, the town troublemaker, tries to steal donations meant for the event.
These donations are mine.
Not on my watch, treacherous Tony.
He does it again. National Night Out is saved. Sergeant Be Safe nails treacherous Tony and off to jail he goes.
We're stronger together. Let's work together to keep our town safe and have an enjoyable National Night Out. And that's your tip of the day to get you on your way.
And there you have it, Sergeant Be Safe. For those of you that don't know, National Night Out is the first Tuesday in August. So yes, it's coming up next week. First Tuesday coming up. So if you don't know it, get out and meet your fellow neighbors, your fellow constituents. There'll be a lot of fun activities at most of them. You get to meet your firefighters, you get to meet your EMS, you get to meet your police officers there as well. National Night Out is a moment where you can ask your questions, where you get to see the faces in your neighborhood or your area or development or wherever you're at, and get to meet the people, get to meet the local officials, like I said, and law enforcement. So make sure you guys check them out. And it's always a good time for the kids too, because it's always some bouncy houses, balloons, ice creams, food trucks, all that good stuff. Make sure you guys get out there. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we had a great interview with Oscar Smith here. And I'm like I said, I'm a true fan. I appreciate him coming on the show. But before we wrap up, Oscar, there may have been something that I may have forgot to ask you a question, or through the course of conversation, I may have jogged your memory on something that you wanted to touch on. Is there anything else that you would like to share with us? I'm talking with my hand, sorry. Is there anything else that you would like to share with us right now? The floor is yours.
No, I think that we pretty much covered everything, and I think it's fantastic of what you do and reaching out. And I totally forgot about it. I remember National Night Out when I was a cop as a rookie, and we had Operation Safe Block or things like that. So I think it's great that that still program exists and for people to go see, and meet, like you said, local law enforcement, EMS, and firefighters. So with that, just everyone out there, be safe, respect your cops. As I used to tell people back in Manhattan when they would take pictures of us, I'm like, go take pictures of your local cops where you're from. They do the same job that we do. We're not superstars. I mean, they wear the same uniform and everything else because that was the height of the NYPD Blue show and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
So with that said, I appreciate so much of you allowing me to be on your show as a guest. Much success to you. Keep doing what you're doing. And hopefully, like I said, if you need help, get the help as a law enforcement fellow with men and women. And then with kids, it's great inspiration for them with athletics and leagues and things like that. So there's a lot out there. And I don't hear anyone make complaints or anything else like that. If you want to do something, you will figure a way to do it the right way. Education, perseverance. That's the key thing. Ask questions. Simple as that. Open your mind. Read a book.
Remember where you guys heard it first, man. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I told you we were going to have a tremendous guest, and he brought the show, and he brought a lot of good information, a lot of excitement too. So I hope you guys enjoyed yourself just the way I did. Oscar, thank you for making yourself available and coming on the show. I truly appreciate you, the connection. I truly appreciate the communication we had and coming on the show. I'm looking forward to connecting with you further and see if we can go ahead and do something else as far as another interview or an updated interview, maybe a little bit further down the line, but we'll see what the stars may align and bring us. But for today, thank you very much for coming on the show and blessing this show.
Oh, thank you so much for everything. And don't be surprised if I don't show up in your neighborhood. Come and hang out with you guys.
Let's make it happen. Let's make it happen. I'm going to have to look over my shoulder because I'm not running sandhills, man. I'll do a lot of other things. I'm not running sandhills.
Well, it looks like I could actually tie a log to you and you could drag that around. You don't look like a little guy, so.
Yeah. I was one of those linemen that backstage that you said that you used to work out with back in the day. So.
Oh, yeah.
But there you have it. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, thank you guys for tuning in. Again, this is Black and Blue. The podcast is just for you, where we go live at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And when we go live with a special guest that's in law enforcement or a first responder, whether they're rookie season or retiree. And when we talk about them, we talk about their trainings, their experiences, and their publications. And we didn't fall short today. So make sure you keep those comments coming. Make sure you tag, like, share, subscribe, let everybody know about this page, because we're still going to move the needle forward. We're having a lot of fun doing it because our goal is to humanize the badge and have fun while we do it. We're going to continue law enforcement edutainment here on this platform. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, thank you guys for tuning in. I'm Coach Clee, your motivational speaker, your empowerment coach, your author, and your favorite baker's favorite baker, saying 10-4 over and out. You guys have a good night. Take care. We'll see you next week.
Captain Chaos, did you mess up another report again?
Sorry, Sergeant Be Safe. I'll try to be more, careful.
What in the world was that? Whoa, look out the window, Captain Chaos. There's a real live superhero.
We have to meet them, Sergeant Be Safe. Let's go.
There's Supercrime Buster to the rescue.
Hey, there's Supercrime Buster! Woohoo!
Hey, you're the greatest, Supercrime Buster.
Yeah, we know Supercrime Buster's out there. We're actually on the way, but we keep getting phone calls. Excuse me, Supercrime Buster. I'm Sergeant Be Safe, and this is my partner, Captain Chaos. We'd like to thank you for your incredible bravery.
Yeah, you're amazing. We're big fans.
Wait, you are the police officers, but not the superheroes?
No, we're just ordinary officers doing our duty.
But we may not have superpowers, but we're heroes in our own way.
You're right! The heroes don't always wear capes or possess superhuman abilities. It's the everyday heroes like you who make a difference.
Thank you, Supercrime Buster, for that reminder. You are absolutely 100% correct. To all the first responders and law enforcement officers, take it from me and Captain Chaos. We applaud you. We know you do a thankless job and are highly needed. You are a superhero in your own right. Keep up the good work in these perilous times because you are needed. Wouldn't you agree, Kraken? And that's your tip of the day to get you on your way.
Yes. No,
real simple if the problem was bad cops.